Nvidia just launched their RTX 4070, and I have some really bad news for AMD graphics cards. Let's talk about it. Are you browsing the no-no sections of the internet and you want to keep your data private, or maybe you just don't want your ISPs building a portfolio on exactly who you are for no reason? Well, that's where private internet access comes in. Private internet access is a VPN or virtual private network that lets you use the internet without giving out all your information. And thankfully, private internet access makes it easy to install and use on any platform you would need, including Windows, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and many more. Not only does it keep your data secure by encrypting your internet connection, but it allows you to also access shows and movies that might be locked out of your region, allowing you to get more out of your subscription services. Just like how on Netflix, the show Rick and Morty is unavailable in the US, but if you change your location to the UK, it will immediately become available. Additionally, with over 50 servers in 50 US states and an excellent rating on Trustpilot with over 8,500 reviews, you can rest assured that you'll have a fast and reliable connection. So if you want to get a great VPN, click my link in the description below to get an 83% discount, making it just $2.03 a month, and you get an extra 4 months free. Plus, there's no risk with their 30-day money-back guarantee. That's right, today guys, we finally got a more affordable card from Nvidia, and I do say more affordable because honestly guys, let's be realistic, $600 for the RTX 4070 is just a little bit too much for this card, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a really bad product. Of course, the RTX 4070 is going to be bringing you better price to performance when compared to the RTX 3080 at its launch MSRP, and everybody thought the RTX 3080 was an absolutely fantastic deal, but we do have to keep in mind, of course, that was 2 years ago and some change. So things have definitely changed since then, and the 3080 today at $700 wouldn't necessarily be quite as good as it was back then. So is the RTX 4070 actually worth purchasing? And then of course, after we discuss that, we will be talking about AMD and how things could be getting really bad when it comes to Radeon. But of course, first let's talk about the RTX 4070. So at $600, what are you getting? You're getting 5,888 CUDA cores, you're getting 12 gigabytes of video memory, and you're getting 504 gigabytes per second. And of course, you're getting all of Nvidia's new features such as AV1 decoding and encoding, as well as you're going to be getting DLSS 3.0, which I do think probably could be brought back to the RTX 30 series, but of course, they are going to be holding it hostage to try and make you upgrade to the RTX 40 series, and whether or not you actually like DLSS 3, of course, is going to be a little bit subjective. I personally like it, but I don't think it necessarily is going to be a super huge game changer for most people, considering although it is giving you a higher frame rate, you're not getting lower latency. So when we take that all into account and you take a look at reviews online, it's actually scoring roughly on par with the RTX 3080, and it's doing so for $100 less, which is actually really good to see because this is one of the only cards other than the RTX 4090 which is technically moving the price to performance in a good direction. Now the 4090 moved it in a substantially better direction when compared to the 3090, but the 3090 was already, in my opinion, way too overpriced for when it released. So the RTX 4090, it might look good compared to the 3090, but we do have to compare that to like the 2080 Ti and the 1080 Ti that came before it. So not necessarily as impressive when you put that into perspective. Also, the RTX 4070, it is much better that we are getting a better card for cheaper with more features and nearly half the power draw for $100 less than the RTX 3080. I mean, that's very impressive. And to be honest with you guys, if I had the choice between a $500 RTX 3080 on eBay and a $600 RTX 4070 new from somewhere like Newegg or Amazon, I would actually spend the extra $100 for the extra features, the warranty, as well as the lower power draw of the RTX 4070, especially considering that games are starting to break through that 10 gigabyte barrier now and are more regularly, at least when it comes to new single player games, starting to ask for 12 gigabytes when it comes to ultra settings gaming at higher resolution. So I do think it is a better value, and I would actually go out and purchase the RTX 4070 today if I had to choose between a couple of different cards, like from AMD with their 6900 XT, as well as some used RTX 30 series cards, or this new 4070. So honestly guys, I am going to tell you that I do think it is worth a purchase, but it comes with a huge asterisk, and that asterisk is, well, it's way too expensive. I mean, we gotta be honest, $600 for a mid-range GPU these days is starting to get ludicrous, and frankly, I would actually rather Nvidia would have cut this thing down slightly more to bring it down to $500, because at $500, if it had roughly similar performance, I do think it would actually be a very good deal, even though $500 is still kind of expensive. But at $600, for a mid-range GPU, that's just starting to get too expensive, and it clearly shows to me that Nvidia desperately needs more competition. So if you agree with me, guys, please do put in the comments below what you think this card should cost, so that Nvidia, if they do happen to read those, gets an idea of where you would like to see the price of GPUs. And as well as that, share this video with your friends who are also frustrated about the price. But enough about the RTX 4070. We now have to talk about AMD, because speaking of competition, where is the competition? Where is AMD? And I think this is something we have got to talk about. Now, we do have some leaks and rumors. However, guys, things are looking kind of dire over on the Radeon side, because here you have from Nvidia not only the 4090, 4080, and 4070 Ti, but now we have an RTX 4070. And while AMD does technically have an answer to the 4090, well, 4080 and the 4070 Ti, there's really nothing for the 4090, and there's definitely nothing for the RTX 4070 right now. So depending on how you look at it, AMD's really kind of just leaving the goalpost wide open yet again. So I don't know what's going on over there, and we have not heard a whisper about new GPUs directly from AMD, at least when it comes to the desktop side. So what are they doing? Now, they could continue to cut prices on the RX 6000 series and continue to offer them. I mean, that is an option for them, but realistically, if they want to gain market share, they have to bring out new products. Even if that means rebranding, that would still be better than continuing to sell your older generation. It just isn't going to do well in the market in terms of mindshare and the way that your company looks. So AMD, if you are planning on releasing more GPUs, you have got to say something, and realistically, you should have already had them out. Not only should they be being planned on and produced right now, you should have beat Nvidia to the punch if you wanted to start gaining more market share, which makes me start to believe that AMD just isn't as interested in gaining market share or giving super awesome products in a reasonable time frame to their fans, which is very disappointing to see. All we have are these rumors, which recently came out from Red Gaming Tech, and if we take a look at them, we can see here that the Navi 32 parts are going to consist of allegedly a 7800 XT, which is going to have 60 CUs and 16 gigabytes of VRAM on a 256-bit bus with 64 megabytes of cache and a 285 watt TBP. I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys it's probably going to be a little bit slower than the RTX 4070 Ti, and at 285 watts, it's actually not necessarily looking that impressive so far, but if the price is right, then it could definitely be a really good option, especially considering you're getting more video memory. That's going to be very important at these slightly lower prices. But then taking a look at their 7700 XT, apparently this thing's going to have 54 CUs, 12 gigabytes of GDDR6 on a 192-bit bus, and 48 megabytes of cache with a 225 watt TBP. Once again, that TBP isn't necessarily super impressive. I do think it is going to be beat out in terms of efficiency, especially when you compare it to the 4070. But if the performance is good and the price is good, hey, who cares? It's going to be a great product, especially considering you're going to be getting 12 gigabytes of VRAM, and it could be actually competing with, apparently, according to the leaks from Red Gaming Tech, more like a 4060 Ti. And the 4060 Ti, do keep in mind, right now is rumored to have just 8 gigabytes of VRAM, and that is going to be absolutely ridiculous if they try and charge, you know, close to $500 for that card. I would not recommend that, and this would be a much better alternative, allowing you to play your games at much higher settings and allowing the card to age much better. So as you can see, this would be an absolutely fantastic card to be bringing out right now, or even if they can't necessarily be getting them into the hands of gamers, if they could at least tell us what these cards are going to be officially and give us a release date, that would be absolutely fantastic. But with no word from AMD, and apparently according to the leaks, I think he was talking about possibly a Q2 or Q3 release date for these cards, that is really not good for AMD fans, and it's not good for Nvidia fans either, or just fans of GPUs in general, because that means Nvidia can basically do whatever they want for months on end. So to me, it just seems like AMD is nearly giving up at this point. They're just choosing not to release their cards, or maybe they're not choosing to, but they're having such a hard time producing these that they cannot get them out on a timely manner, which is just absolutely ridiculous. They really should not have too much trouble getting these cards out onto the market if they could effectively execute on their plans, and it seems like either that's not possible or AMD is just starting to give up and not really wanting to compete with Nvidia. But hey, that's just what I think. Do you think that AMD's giving up, or do you think they're gonna come out of nowhere and smack the bejesus out of Nvidia? Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below, and of course, I'll see you in the next video. If you made it to the end of the video, be sure to drop a like. Every time you do so, AMD and Nvidia release new GPUs. Also, if you want to see more, check out one of these related videos. You won't be disappointed.